I love to travel. I began traveling internationally 20 years ago, and I'm very proud to say that I've traveled to every continent. I love to travel because I learn about the cultures and the countries that I visit, but I also learn something about myself. In this speech, I will list in chronological order the countries that I've visited, share with you a lesson that I've learned, and give a brief illustration of how I achieved my lesson. The first continent I visited, North America. I was born here. And the lesson is be respectful and kind. I learned this lesson from my father. He never equated a person's position with their value. When my father went to a bank, he would shake hands with the president and exchange pleasantries. Then he would go find the janitor, buy him a cup of coffee, and tell jokes with him. I always thought that was cute. And he passed along the value of a person, not the position, to each of his children, and that's been a lesson that's helpful in all of my travels. My second continent was Europe, and the lesson was appreciate history and tradition. Europe has been around a lot longer than the United States has. I've spent 10 summers traveling around Europe and studying, and I was amazed by the opportunity to hear Shakespeare in London, and to see Wimbledon, a game at Wimbledon on center court, and to go to Royal Ascot and see the royal family, and to drink beer in Germany and wine in France and eat pizza in Italy. Wonderful experiences. Europe is very good about appreciating their history and maintaining their culture through traditions. The third continent I visited is Africa. I've been to Africa twice. The first time I went to Morocco, and it was a nice trip. It was organized by a tour, and it was very safe. We didn't do anything on our own that was dangerous. The second time I went to Egypt, and I was in Cairo. I was traveling alone as a female, and although I tried to respect their culture by wearing long sleeves and long pants, I still felt very uncomfortable there. I felt as if I had a bullseye on my head, and I didn't feel safe. I can't chalk it up to merely inexperience and being an inexperienced traveler, because that was my fourth continent and I had already traveled quite a bit. So I learned to trust my instincts and know that when I didn't feel safe, I should go hang out at the pool at the hotel instead of risking my life in a situation that could have been unsafe. My fourth continent was Asia. And the lesson I learned in Asia is we all have something in common. The story that sticks with me the most when I think about this lesson is I saw two little children, two little girls holding ice cream cones. One little girl was crying inconsolably, and her ice cream was on her feet. It was down up on the ground by her feet. The other girl was leaning over, patting her on the back, trying to console her. And that example took place in China, but it could have been anywhere in the world. Everyone comforts and cares for the people that are important to them. The next continent I went to was Australia. The lesson I learned there was be flexible. When I went to Australia, I didn't even have a destination in mind. I was living in China at the time, and I had a 3-week holiday for Spring Festival. I packed my bags, flew to the airport in Hong Kong, walked up to the departure board, said, what plane can I get on and where do I want to go? And Qantas had flights available. So within 30 minutes, I had a visa to Australia and a ticket to Sydney. I went to the bookstore, bought a book on Australia, and hopped on the plane. It was one of the best trips I ever had. I went snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef. I went to see a show at the Sydney Opera House. I went sailing in the Whitsunday Islands, and I camped in a rainforest. The best thing that happened while I was in Australia was I saw little turtles hatching underneath a full moon in the Whitsunday Islands, and they were creeping along from their eggs down to the ocean for their first swim. I'll never forget that as long as I live. It was just an exceptional experience. My next continent, my sixth continent, was South America. I only visited Buenos Aires and Ushuaia in Argentina, but it was just glorious. The people, the lesson I learned was to appreciate beauty and sophistication. The people in Buenos Aires looked as if they had stepped out of the pages of a magazine. They are gorgeous. The men and women dressed very stylishly, and they looked cool and polished even in the heat of the summer. That's something I appreciate very much. Unfortunately, I don't cultivate in myself. I hope to strive to do that. My seventh continent was Antarctica. I had a wonderful time. Oh, the lesson I learned was always try something new. Granted, Antarctica is not your typical vacation destination, but when they told us to pack a bathing suit, I really began to question my sanity. Well, I did pack a bathing suit, and we went into a caldera, which is the ring around the bottom of a volcano that is left after the eruption. So the waters were very calm. We went in, had our bathing suit on under all of our gear, and were able to get into this water which was heated by volcanic vents. It was warm just like a hot tub. It was a wonderful experience. I have found in my opportunity, in my travels, in the continuum of my travels, many opportunities to be kind, appreciate history, trust my instincts, find commonalities among different cultures, be flexible, appreciate beauty, and try something new. I encourage you all to travel as well, because you may be surprised by what you learn, not only about the region, but about yourself. Madam Toastmaster.